you guys. All right. So a few of you have expressed interest in a website and creating a website, and I created one a few years back, and so wanted to sort of share the things that I learned, and hopefully it will help reduce your both fear and uncertainties about starting one yourself, because I think it's a really great tool to use. And so hopefully this will help you guys. So before we get started with this, I just wanted to go over a couple of terms, because I know that there can be just some terminology that people are unfamiliar with. And so just real quick, a domain, you'll hear domain and hosting oftentimes with creating a website, and a domain is the name of your website. So it's the URL address that you use. And so in my case, it's www.sarahku.com. I wanted to pick my name that was very simple and easy to remember, so that if I'm trying to tell somebody about what my website is, then it's a very quick and easy thing to do. Now, some people have catchy sort of phrases or things like that for their website name. I think it's best to keep it simple if you're trying to be professional, but it can also be tricky because some of us have common names, and so it can be a little bit difficult if somebody else already has your domain. And so some of these platforms will offer suggestions in terms of alternatives if that one's already taken, but there's just sort of some differences there in terms of the names that you can pick. And so hosting is a different thing. So hosting is the platform in which you share and store content for your website. And so that's not the same thing. You can buy a domain without buying hosting. And so some people will do that if they think of a catchy name and they think that somebody will see that as valuable in the future. They'll go ahead and buy a domain name for cheap, and that way they can sell it to you at a profit. So there's ways that you can get around if somebody owns your domain name but they're not using it, then you can try to figure out how to buy it from them. But oftentimes now these services couple it together to where if you're going to be hosting your website on a platform, then they'll also they'll bundle it with buying a domain name together as well. And so we'll talk about that. And let's see. So hosting platforms, I've just got a few different websites here that there are a lot of platforms that you can use for hosting a website. I personally use Squarespace, and I'll explain why in a minute. But right now for this comparison, I just have Squarespace, Wix, WordPress, and Weebly. I actually didn't know about Weebly until last week when I was just sort of throwing this together, but I figured I'd throw it on there just as another option. But some of the differences here, all of these have free options to be able to host your host your website for free, but there are some caveats. And so on Wix, WordSpace, and Weebly, you can have an unlimited sort of trial period to where you can where it's free, but you'll have some sort of stipulations. So you'll have like an assigned domain name, which means that you can choose like your name, but it will have in the URL address like Wix or like sarahku.wordpress.com. It would have the name of the platform in the URL address with it. And oftentimes they also have ads on the website on your website, and so that's how they're able to afford to provide that service for you for free. Now, I knew straight off the bat that I did not want ads on my website. I didn't want to have it associated with a platform, and so I wanted a custom domain name from the start. And so at the time when I was looking at creating a website, I only knew of and looked at Squarespace and Wix. And if you see the sort of cost breakdown for when you if you want to purchase the most basic plan, a comparison between Wix and Squarespace was Squarespace was the cheapest, and so that's why I went with Squarespace. Now, again, I didn't know about WordPress and Weebly at the time. As you can see from this cost breakdown, they're actually much cheaper than Squarespace and Wix, and so if that's something that you're interested in, then I encourage you to look at that. I just will only be talking about Squarespace today because that's my platform and that's what I use. And so, yeah, so that's just sort of the a basic overview of those 4 platforms. But again, there are multiple other platforms if you're curious about getting into things, and they have differences in terms of their capabilities, what they can offer. Oftentimes it has to do with commerce, and so if you're buying and selling things, then they can handle things like credit card transactions and things like that. Now, as generally most of us here are PhD students and trying to use this as a professional development platform, and so that wasn't something I needed, and so I just used the most basic plan for Squarespace. Now, what can you do with a website? You can market yourself. Actually, I missed a slide here. Oh, here we go. So in terms of how you choose a platform, cost, of course, is an important thing, as most of us here are poor grad students, and so cost is an important thing. Ease of use is also something that you want to consider. You want to make sure that that's something that it's sort of, if you're not familiar with website design and development, then it's best if you have something that is very easy to use and is sort of a click and play, like a very intuitive platform that will be easy for beginners to use. You also want to look at reputation, if they're, if they have good customer service and all that stuff, just like with any other thing that one purchases. Software and hardware is sort of less of a concern now as it used to be. Sometimes you used to have a specific software to be able to create a website. Nowadays, you can just do it through a browser, and it's really pretty easy. But again, you want to see, are there certain browsers that are more compatible with certain websites or not? Usually they're fairly comparable, but again, every platform has some little differences and nuances there. So that's just something to consider when you're looking at a platform, as well as hardware. Presumably most of us are working primarily on laptops or desktops. But if you're working on a tablet or on your phone, then that's something that you also want to be able to have these platforms to be able to do. And a lot of these platforms will now automatically adjust your website to the dimensions of a tablet or a mobile phone, which is great because you used to have to do that manually. And so it's nice that now these platforms have made it really very easy to do. And so that's sort of less of a concern. But again, these are just sort of some things that you want to keep in mind when you're choosing which platform to use. So what you can do with a website, and what I use a website for, is to market myself. I like to post if I have publications or projects that I'm working on, if there are certain news things that I want to share about what's happening in my life, if I attend a conference, or if I have a blog post. I just had a blog post recently, so I like to post that so that people can sort of see that you are active and up to date in terms of your activities and what you're doing. I also post my CV on there, and that way I can have control over what is posted. The Georgia State website, for any PhD candidate who's on the job market, they will post your website as well, so that anybody who is looking and recruiting can see who's on the job market. And so I actually have, rather than uploading up like a PDF or a Word document of my CV, that changes, and things on that change. And so I like to be able to have control over that. And so what I've done is just linked the URL for my CV on my website on the GSU page, because that way whoever is clicking that will get the most up-to-date version of my CV, and I don't have to continue to upload it on a separate site all the time. And so I really like having a website because, again, I can have control over the content. I can update things when I want to, and I don't have to sort of go through some other platform where I don't have access to it. And so it gives a lot of control. You can use it for sharing resources, also for your research, for teaching, or for personal use. For research, I've a lot of times, like for conferences last year that were all digital and online, a lot of conferences requested that you make a video presentation of a paper that you submitted for the conference. And so your website is a way that you can share that video to a larger audience than those who just attended the conference. For teaching, I've created my syllabus on my website for classes, and that's again a great way to be able to control sort of the information that's on that you want to share with your students without having to go through iCollege. I didn't want every time I had a syllabus change to have to upload the new document on iCollege and make an announcement for it, and then have students be confused about which version that they saw. Things changed a lot at the end of last year. With the shift to online. And so I wanted to be able to provide them with sort of live updates that didn't require getting bombarded with emails and announcements on iCollege. So that was a great thing for me to be able to do. And then also just for personal use, you can share hyperlinks, videos, pictures, documents. It's a great way to just share resources of any kind, whether it's for professional or personal use. And another great thing about having a website is that you can see some different analytic tools, and I'll share those capabilities with you guys as well. In terms of, you can see in what countries people are looking at your website. You can see if you post something, you can look at how many views you're getting to see whether your activity is actually, whether people are looking at your content or not. And so it's a great tool to be able to market yourself, as well as sort of see, particularly I was thinking about it, if you are on the job market and you're specifically looking, at schools in certain locations, you can actually see if those states or cities have been looking, people in those states and cities have been looking at your website. And so that can sort of help gauge you whether your presence is being recognized and felt in those places that you're looking at. And so again, just a great tool. And so let's see how it works. And before I move on, first off, can you guys just let me know if you can see the browser with my website here? Yes, Raymond says yes. Okay, great. And before I get started, does anybody have any questions before I sort of share with you guys my personal website? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask away.
Yeah, Sarah. Hey, Satish.
Hi, Satish. How are you?
My main question is, you may get to this when you talk about your website, is does it have, I think it does because I saw it on your website, the ability to collect data, like you can post some question and have people respond. And where does that go? Does it go to a database that you can then download and analyze if you need to, etc.?
Yes, that's a great question. And actually, since we're talking about that, I will go ahead and go to where you saw that. So this is an example of, this was my syllabus for last spring for my class. And I have on here, this is sort of a poll question feature that Satish was asking about, where you can ask you can ask questions to your students or to anybody really. But I used it for my students to try to find out, what would they like to learn about the class? What are their goals, to try to sort of understand them better. Now, to be frank and transparent, I actually added this towards the end of the semester. I didn't start out the semester with my syllabus online. I only did that because of the online shift with COVID. And so I had asked my class in person these questions at the beginning of class, and they just wrote it down on a piece of paper. Now for this, and I can show you the tool to how to create this, but you can have the answers of this go to a specific email address. You can have it, actually, while we're talking about it, let me just pull this up. So this is the dashboard. This is on the left here is the navigation, the dashboard for, you can see all of these tabs on the top left here are my main navigation. So that's what you see at the top right here. And depending on the template that you choose, it will depend on where your navigation is, but they're all fairly standard. But I have my since my syllabus doesn't apply to everybody who will visit my website, I have it as a hidden page. So you can see down here on the bottom left, these are pages of sort of things that I've created that are not on the main navigation bar up here. But if you share the link, and you can have different privacy settings and things, but if you share this link, then you can access it. And so that's just that way I can share this with my students, but it's not bombarding and taking up space on my main website for people who don't really need to see this. So for here, you would edit to see the content. And for here, so this is a form. It's sort of like a widget here. Whenever you want to add content on Squarespace, you have this block here. You can add something. So it was form right here, and there's several different sort of options. You can add pictures, you can add videos, and if you do decide to create a website, there's lots of different options. I'm not going to go over everything here because it's just there's a lot, and you can sort of spend a lot of time on it. But if you wanted to add a form, you would just click that. And so there's sort of a basic template here, but you can add and customize and adjust things. And so you can say the name of your form, and you can see that I had was asking my students various questions. And so I'd ask for their name, but when you click over here on storage, you can see where those responses go to. And so you can either choose to have them go to your email. Now that might be sort of overwhelming if you're, it will bombard you. And so what you can also do is you can connect it to a Google Drive. I'm not really sure how that works, but you can also like very easily create a Google web address and say like, BUSA 3000 course spring of 2021. And you can have basically all the responses go to that email address. If you wanted to have it separated out to where you can sort of organize it by course, you could do it that way. Or you could just do it like Satish teaching, and then you can have it, this would basically be pretty easy to organize because it would be by date, right? Like you're not going to get students from a different semester filling this out at a different time. And so you could very easily just create an email that would be unique, specific for teaching or for a specific course. That way all of their responses would go to that email address. And so again, this is not something, your students would have to do this voluntarily, but you could, encourage them to do that, or through extra credit, or you can have it as a required assignment. But you can ask different questions in this form. You can edit it in terms of whether it's a required question or not, and so that's a nice feature. What I really liked is this placeholder text. So I don't know if you saw from my example before here, but I put, what would you like to learn in this class? And I put some placeholder text so that, it's not just blank. I provided some sort of options. Now that's priming, and I do understand that you'll probably have more people saying the things that you suggest than if you didn't, but that it can help jog their mind and sort of encourage them, stimulate them to have some ideas on how to answer it. But that's a nice sort of feature to be helpful to do that, which that's a less formal way of doing, this is not as sort of again, this is a way to sort of prime and bias things. So for research purposes, it might not be great, but for trying to stimulate engagement, it can be very helpful. So thank you, Satish, for that question. I hope that answered it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. But I didn't mean to sidetrack because this is kind of one specific feature.
Yes.
Yeah, you may want to go back to just showing the basics for everyone. So.
Sure. No worries, but thanks. That's a great question. But so hopefully that can show you guys, that's just one example of something that you can do. I'm not going to save that, so I'm just going to cancel this. I don't want to save changes here, but so we can just go back here, and we can go from the from scratch, if you guys want to see, like, if you were to create a brand new one, what would it look like? Or I can sort of go through and explain to you how I have certain features on here. So if one of you wants to just sort of shout out and say what you're interested in doing, then that would help me to explain better for y'all. So I'm going to give two options. Would you rather sort of look at what I have and go from there, or would you rather start from scratch and see what it would look like starting from scratch?
I think I like the from scratch option.
From scratch? Great. Okay.
Yeah, I would
So-
also be interested in how to come up with those contents,
Okay.
what to put in and how to choose and how to organize those.
Sure. So so actually, why don't Jeremy, I'm gonna answer that first actually, and then we'll go back to sort of starting from scratch with Raymond. So Jeremy, that's a great question in terms of how do you figure out what to put on here. Now, when I started out, I had like 3 tabs. I didn't have this many tabs on mine. And so for me, I just kind of built from what I was able to share. And so when I started out, I didn't have any publications. I didn't have anything, a lot to share, but I was like going to conferences and doing things in that way. And so I just sort of wanted to start building my presence there. And so I had just started out with some pictures and a little bit of text saying like, hey, I went to this conference, and this is like, I hyperlinked to that conference. And so it's not, it wasn't a lot of content to start out with. I had that, and then I had like my CV, which I just have as like a PDF, a button to a PDF document, so that way it's a separate thing. I originally started out with putting it, with basically embedding it into the website, and I quickly learned that I didn't want that because with formatting and stuff, it made things awkward, and so I just have it now linked out to a document that I, have control over. And like I wasn't teaching when I first started out, so I didn't have a teaching tab. But in terms of contact, I just wanted like something basic. Hey, if somebody wants to get in touch with me, they can reach out. And again, this is similar, Satish, to the other forums. You can have this go directly to a specific email address to forward, so that you can have access to that. And so and I had put things below here like a link to Google Scholar, a link to LinkedIn, ResearchGate, this is to ORCID. And again, you might not have those starting out, but it's something that you can sort of build on. And so hopefully my website can provide at least a little bit of a template or inspiration for things that you can add if you're at a loss for what to add for content. But you can really make it very basic to start out with and just have like your name, what your research interests are, and your contact information, and that could be it. But again, if you sort of establish something early on and build from it, then that can help. So let's see. So I had just sort of, let's just do this, because if you want to start from scratch and see what it looks like, when you're creating a website, it'll go through and ask you about a domain name. I think it'll do that first, but because I already have one and I'm clicking now to create one, then it's already giving me templates. But usually it starts out asking a domain. And again, if you type in your name or whatever you want as your domain and it's not available, it will populate suggestions for alternatives. So like Raymonstall, if that was already taken, then it might say like Raymonstall 1 or like 2021 or Raymonstall GSU. Now, I would encourage you all to not associate yourselves with GSU. And that's only like in your URL name, because when you graduate, you'll switch schools. And so that's just something to keep in mind. You want to keep it to where you don't necessarily have your school affiliated with your domain name, because that will change. So for templates, there are like lots and lots of templates you can go through. And so a lot of them, they're organized based on whether it's through commerce. You can see here fashion, you know, local business, photography, health and beauty, food. There's different sort of designs that you can choose from, but you can also just sort of scroll through. If you have an idea of sort of what you want, then you can do that as well. Let's see, what can we pick here? Yeah, personal and CV. Let's just see what some of the templates are for here. Now, with any of these, like if you like this style, but you don't like the colors, that's okay, because you can change the colors. And so there's options to be able to customize, which is really nice, because even if you go with a template that somebody else has, you can sort of, because like now that I've seen some of these templates and I visit a website, I'll know, you know, certain websites like, oh, they made theirs on Squarespace because I have that same template. And so that can be good or bad depending on how you look at that. But let's see, let's just, I don't know which one to pick there. Let's, you know, look at that. So we can
Hey,
just pick
Sarah.
one. Yes, Julie.
I have a question on the other page that you were just on. There was,
Sure.
before you got to the styles on the right,
Mhm.
on the left, there was, I think it was called type. And my question there for you is, you know, I want to run a blog and have a web presence.
Okay, yeah.
It seemed like it was portfolio, there was options, and one was blog, but what do you pick for the type? Because I don't want it to just be a blog.
Right. And that's, let me see if I can get back to that. Let's do this again.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's what this
Right
is.
there. So type is different than
Yeah.
topic.
So
What did you choose?
so honestly, I started mine a few years ago, and this was not an option when I started. This didn't exist. So I don't know what I chose for this. And the thing is that so type, I think all that this is doing is helping to narrow down the templates that you're looking at. And it's not necessarily to say that if you were to click blog, or if you were to not click blog and then later on you're like, you know what, I really wanted to add a blog to my website. It's not that you can't add it later on. You can add it later on. It's just this, I think the only reason why they have these options right here is just to help you select a template that might better work for you.
Got it. Thank
Right.
you.
You're welcome.
One more short question.
Yes, please.
Since you said, since it allows you to upload photos and videos, is there a space limitation?
So there are certain storage limitations. I personally haven't run into any with mine. Let me see if I can see. I was wondering if I could see very quickly how much storage I have. Because that's a good question. But I have several videos and images and things on my website. I have not run into any issues yet. I'm pretty sure that if you go on, you can go on Squarespace and look at their, they have a lot of like comparison kind of tables saying like, you know, are there ads? What's the cost? What's the size limitation? They have various features in terms of, you know, what you're looking for. And so that you should be able to find out what the limit is for.
Sure, sounds good. That's fine.
But the basic is pretty, like, yeah, I don't, the basic option is pretty good. Like I don't know if you'll run into space limitations with that. My hunch is that it's sort of like Dropbox, and that everybody has like a pretty good amount at first, and you'd have to really have a lot of content to need to upgrade to something bigger. So okay, so now that let's see, where are we at? So now we're okay. Let's just pick one. Sorry, slow computer. So you can say like, let's see, Julie, I'm just going to use you as an example. And let's see, was it Salisbury? I gotta double check to see how to spell your name. Actually, yours is not here. I'm gonna pick Hannah. Hers is right here. For some reason, your name wasn't popping up when I was hovering over it, and so I couldn't see the spelling, couldn't verify the spelling of your name. So Hannah, we're using you. So right here, it's showing you this navigation here. So this is, Jeremy, what you were talking about in terms of content, how do you figure out what to put? You can have different headings like this, and these are pretty standard when you have things like about or like events, things like that. So the navigation is on the left side of the website, and then you can see the pages from that. And you can also have different styles. Like I told you before, if you like the template but you don't like the colors, you can just, there's a paintbrush up there on the top right, and you can change the fonts and colors. And that's pretty easy to do. And so you have something out here. They've filled in different things right here to give you an idea of what it would look like. Now you can change all of this stuff. As you can see on the right here, there's an intro video. So I'm not going to click on this because we can all sort of watch that on your own time. I'm sure this is available on YouTube, where you can look. But I just want to give you guys sort of a quick overview of what it's like. And it's something, honestly, I have fun with like playing around on this, but for me, you know, it's a nice thing to sort of work on as a break from research that gives you a break from research, but you still feel like you're being productive and doing something to help your professional development. And so, you know, you can spend some time with sort of playing around on here. And if you like, so say Hannah is not a Black man. So that we need to change that picture fairly quickly, right? And so what she would do is I just hit edit on the top left there. And so you see there's you have different sections here. You can see these blue borders that are around the different sections. And so you can remove certain sections, you can add certain things. And Squarespace does a really good job about like giving you options. And so again, it's a little bit hard to do a tutorial on this because like it's already sort of, it does it for you, where it will sort of prompt you for different things. And so you know, there's lots of different features down here on the left side. So if you wanted to have you know, different photos or something that you share, then it will sort of give you options. If you wanted it, like here is a 3x2, you wanted two two portrait pictures together. If you wanted the landscape, there's different ways that you can organize and set up photos. Now you can also just add one single photo, you know, individually without having a gallery. And that would just be images here, you would add it. And there's different options in terms of where to put text. You can put it on the side, you can put it next to it, you can have it hover. When you hover over the image, text pops up. There's different options of what you can do. So let's see, how would we edit Hannah's picture? Title and logo. So see the logo, you would just add, you would upload an image here. Let's see, to be able to, let's see, this was the image that I had for the event. So let's see if that fixed it. Did that fix it? Oh, okay. So I did the wrong thing. So that's, I don't know if you can see this is the top left here. So that would be a logo. We would have to edit different things to edit the picture. But is there, I would love some questions or some feedback in terms of what you guys are wanting to figure out how to do. So see, you can remove the image, you can edit and upload, images and things. So I would love to hear from you guys, like what exactly you would like to go over here.
Sarah, for
Yes.
me, I guess the one thing is if you could show us again, I feel like all of us would be in the phase where we're slowly building and slowly revealing. So it's kind of this idea that how do we keep everything hidden and then to flip the switch to
Got it,
make it viewable?
Yeah, that's a great question. Go ahead and save this. So anything that's in your main navigation is what is, so it's hard to see now on this images, but if you can see here on the top right, this is the main navigation bar, right? So everything, this says projects, you have projects over here. We've got our vision here, our vision right here. And so anything that's in this main navigation is visible. And so if you were wanting to work on one of the pages without it being visible, then you would simply drag it down to this not linked. You see, it says not linked here. So that means any pages that are down here are sort of ones you're working on.
Okay.
Ones you want hidden. And so if you can see this, you can click this gear and you can see this right here says enable page. That means whether it's going to be sort of clickable or not. And so it's grayed out here because we've moved it to hidden. Now, there's a way, let's see. Set this as your, oh, okay. Sorry, this was a bad example because this is home. So you're not able to change some of the settings on that. But if, say, we moved projects down here, you'd click on the gearbox and you'd click on the gearbox here. Oh, sorry, bad example again, because this is like multiple things. So our team, click on the gear and you can see enable page or not. So if you enable the page, if this page is enabled, what that means is that it's hidden from the navigation, but if you were to share this link with somebody, then they would be able to access it. If you disable the page, then that means even if somebody goes to the URL of this page, they wouldn't be able to see it. So it's, if you're working on something in progress and you don't want people to be able to access it, even if they accidentally came across it, it's good to have this as disabled, so that way there's no confusion and you can't have somebody accidentally come onto that or not.
Okay, so technically so if I think about it, the main navigation is basically, this is my website and it's got, think of tabs, right? So right now your main navigation has 2 tabs, home and blog. And then not linked, I could have basically their other tabs, and those would each be assigned an individual URL. So they're not on my main website, but I'm still controlling the content and I can share them with people if I want to.
Exactly. And so if you see this URL slug right here, what that means is that, so whatever your domain name is, if it was juliesalisbury.com, it would say, it would be juliesalisbury.com/donate. And that would be this page. And so that's what you could share. You can change it. You can say, you can say, charity. You can say, you can type any text that you want for here. And that's how I, when I have my syllabus, I just have it sarahku.com/syllabus. When I have, and that's just to make it easy. Now, that's because I've only taught one class. If I were teaching multiple classes, I want to say, the class name, BUSA 3000 syllabus, something like that. That way I would be able to keep track of it.
So technically we could keep separate things we don't want on our main site. So I'm thinking, for example, if I'm on the Fulbright and I want to have a separate one where it's just for friends and family to see like my crazy pictures and stuff, I can keep it there. Or if I'm writing a blog for the Fulbright, I could be writing it there, swapping the image, building it out, editing it. And then when I'm ready, I drag it back up to the top and drop it. Is
Right.
that right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly right. So that's why actually I was thinking it might be more helpful to sort of see my page because I've already got certain things, and having a new one, as you can see, it can be a little bit overwhelming because there's lots of sort of different options and lots of text and things that they have going on. So for my page, this is all sort of my professional stuff that I've got here that's on my main navigation page. Now I have some professional things that are hidden, like my syllabus example. And like for this group, the RCV PhD fellows, I have created sort of this an unofficial page for the content that we have. And so I have that as hidden, but it's still accessible. And so that's you know, I'm able to share that that URL with our group, and that way it's only sort of our group that looks at that. And if I wanted to have that on my main page, all I would have to do is drag it up. And so like, I also have like personal things. So this is another good example. So I recently submitted a paper to a journal that says that required me to remove any kind of text or videos or information or drafts of the paper, you know, to help in the blind review process, so that they can't search for my research. And so I had that research on my research page before, and so I didn't want that to go away. I didn't want to have to like delete it and then think about that content again to repost it. And so what I did was I just went to my to the page where my research is, and I clicked to duplicate page. And then I moved it down, which is what this page is. And so that's there, but if my main page, it doesn't have it on here anymore. And so that way I deleted it from my public view, but I still have the text, so that once that clears, I can move it back. So that's a helpful way to be able to, again, you can adjust content, you can change what you want to have as viewable and as not viewable. And so I hope that helps. Are there some other things that you guys would like to know how to do? Am I going too fast? Like, is this like, do I need to bring it down to like far more basic? If you guys could just let me know, that would help. Anybody?
Sarah, again, I think this is good. I think it's more that we now have a community maybe of people that are starting websites. And so for me, I was talking to my son who's, you know, savvy and a designer. And I was like, well, I'm going with Squarespace. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because Sarah's on it. And if I need help, I can go to her. So I think that the big thing is that now if more and more PhD students, as you said, if we're all sort of building this out, maybe then we know that when we're hopefully back at like 35 Broad or wherever our offices are, you know, maybe we can, I think, to have a community, once we get our feet wet and start doing it and seeing each other's sites, I think also sharing our sites with each other would be helpful, so that we see, oh, this person did this, that's so cool, how did you do that? I think for me, it's really just starting the community is helpful.
Right. Great.
And I think that's a really great point. One of the things that I would look for when I'm ready to make my own website is I would try to find a reference ones, the reference
And
web pages. That's not too much of a marketing kind of things, but more on sharing on the academic side. So that way there's lots of PR pages, but when it comes to some pages that we want to emphasize on those academics, yeah, if we could share some of those great academic related contents, how to share, what to share, and what structure that you already mentioned. I think getting a list of good reference pages will be a good starting point.
Right. And that's where, so it was fun that Satish came on for a bit, because I had taken his, university teaching course in 2017, my first semester, and he had a website, and I was like, oh, that's a great idea, because then you can, control content, you can have full control over what you're sharing, and that way you're not limited to like iCollege or Blackboard or these other platforms that are specific to, university settings and capabilities. You can have sort of a streamlined thing that is all your own. And so he had this, which is great, because he has his undergraduate courses and his graduate courses. This was the course that we took. He's able to put the schedule on here and change things accordingly and have different, hyperlinks and stuff. But when I was talking to him earlier, he was like, yeah, he was innovative for doing this back in, some decades ago, but now he was like, oh, but I need to update it. And so that's why he was curious to come on here. And so, because as you can see, his format is very different than my format, because he was working with different constraints at the time, right? And so this is what he's got. And so you can look at different, as you sort of go through your research and everything, you can look up authors that you like and different different researchers that you like, and oftentimes they'll have a web presence, and you can see what they're promoting and what they're not promoting. Now, some of them, if they're very well established, then they're going to have things like their books, and lots of different types of things. You can even do something where I've seen some people who have a scheduler where like they have their calendar, so you can schedule a meeting with them and it goes through a certain platform. I don't know, that seemed like sort of overkill. And actually I just had looked at it, and there's like an additional cost for that feature. And so depending on the features that you're wanting, it may cost more, it may not. But it sort of just depends on what all you're wanting to do with it. And so it's a bit tricky because, different people are using it for different things. And so if you're just getting started out, then I encourage you to, again, like have a homepage where you have just, a picture of yourself, a little bit about what your research interests are. It doesn't have to be a lot. Even if you're not sure yourself, you can just say, I'm a PhD student at Georgia State University in the CIS department. And that could be it. And you can just sort of build from there and have pages that you're working on that you hide. And then when you're ready to share them, you can just move them up. Are there some other questions that anybody's got? Again, you can try all of these for free. It's just that with Squarespace, you have a 14-day trial. With everywhere else, it's unlimited, and you can just upgrade as you want. But again, you're going to have an assigned URL rather than having your own. Hannah, did you have a question? I see your box.
No, I just say that I just want to say that this is so great. And yeah, because initially Carlos and I was very curious about building a website, right? Because your site is so super cool and very informative. And yeah, we're gonna need a lot of your help, and Squarespace gonna get a lot of business from us. So.
Yeah, I was like, man, since I'm doing this, like I should see if I can get like a promo code for you guys, get like a discount.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, so I can ask them about that, but I also know of like I have seen certain like YouTubers that I follow, they have like promotional codes, and so like you can use theirs, and anything will be a discount of what they have themselves. But so yeah, I might shoot them an email and be like, hey, there's some people who want to use it, if they'll give me a promo code for it. So I'll let you guys know. But again, like I have like Elizabeth Napier used Wix, and she had that. I think she ended up paying for it later on because she wanted more control over things too. But again, it's it depends on what you're trying to do, what your budget is, what your time is, all of that. But yeah, like Julie said, hopefully this, at least we all actually, I'm gonna real quick. Oh, I will stop. I don't know if I'll be able to see in the video who, sometimes it doesn't say who all is on the call. So I'm just gonna screenshot real quick so that way I have the names of who's here. Yeah, are there some other questions that you guys have? I feel like, I know that this is overwhelming, like this is a lot of stuff to be like sort of thrown into. And so I kind of wish that, you know, the initial part right here, like that I was trying to show you guys on a new one, that it was a little less overwhelming. But they have all of these things here to try to help you so that you're not, Jeremy, like your concern where you're just stuck on content, like what to put. So they've put in these fillers so that, you know, it can sort of help inspire you to say, oh, I can put a picture here and, you know, look, my contact information is already here, so I don't have to figure out where to put that. And then like here, this is a footer where you can have your navigation, like a secondary type of navigation down here. Your main navigation is up here. You can also have like your contact information, and that's what I have on mine, where I just have sort of at the bottom of each page is my contact information, as well as my like LinkedIn and ResearchGate and all that stuff. So again, there's lots of features, lots of things that you can do with it, but you know, it just sort of depends. So I'm happy to help you guys if you have other questions, if you decide to use Squarespace. I will again ask if there's a promo thing in case anybody is interested in purchasing that to get a discount for that. But yeah, are there any other questions? Quiet group today. It's Monday, I know. But if there are no other questions, then feel free to reach out when you do.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you all for being here. Hope it helped.
Thank you, Sarah. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Sure. And Julie, good luck on your defense. I will be in attendance because I'm curious about your ESG stuff.